Anyway, the idea is that here we all are, and we have these different passions actually that are motivating us. And so the sector model is a way to say, all right, how do we acknowledge that in moving forward from here? There are some people who are really oriented toward the economics and they want to follow the money. That's Foster and I are always into that. We want to know, how is this stuff being funded and who's benefiting and what are the ways that, where could there be a financial incentive in this program? Because until we get at that and stop it, there's going to be a full force behind it. So in the economic sector, it would be people who want to gather together the research on that and figure out what do we know and what do we still need to know. And we gave a huge list of resources that we've already compiled that Bruce has put on his website. So I was going to...
Tomorrow.
Okay, so tomorrow there will be, if you go, what's the website?
It's a meetup site. It's meetup.com/thrive-Santa-Cruz.
Okay.
And it will be, if you go to the pages, there's a tab at the top for pages. You go to the pages, there's a page for geoengineering, chemtrails, and weather modification. And the link to all those resources will be right there.
Okay, so those resources can help you get started, whatever sector you end up signing up for. And also, we could make that easier somehow than that website. I'm not sure.
Why don't you say it one more time?
Yeah, or why don't you write it down? Okay, just Google Santa Cruz Thrive or take one of these handouts.
It has the website on here. It also has a tiny URL link to the geoengineering page.
Yeah, okay, great. So you do that, and there are resources there that you can get started to find out what do we know already about the futures markets, for example, and the role of predicting weather and the money that comes back. And then you start tracking that and you find out, so who's making money in the futures markets? And do those same people have to hold the planes? What about the chemicals? Who's manufacturing those chemicals? And who's making the money on it, so that you start to create a thread that makes some sense about unraveling and follow the money. Other people want to know what are the health ramifications on humans. Others would want, that would be under health, the health sector. Other people are going to want to check out more related to the environment and to find out what's the impact on the soils and the trees and to gather the information. And so again, it's finding out what information is already out there and then what information do we still need. The other sectors, so in education, what materials are available to help educate people and what materials still need to be created? I personally think that it's very valuable to have materials that do not mix fact with speculation. Because then you're already down the road of needing to share a worldview about, you know, it's because they want to dumb us down and they this and they that people have trouble relating to if you're not already really immersed in this whole notion of an agenda. And rather than wait, you know, think that we need to agree upon that, we don't. We need to agree on the fact that we're being sprayed. And most thoughtful, conscious, awake people at any level will say, even if I want to be sprayed on, I respect your desire not to be. So you can kind of build a coalition from there. So I think we need educational materials that actually just lay out the facts.
Yeah.
And don't mix that with speculation, because I think you narrow your net in who you can engage to participate in this. And I think that's going to be really important in going to the Board of Supervisors and to the City Council and stuff. We need to stick with, you know, what's the minimum sufficient that they need to get in order to take action. And so then there's the governance, and those are for the people who are going to want to be doing, working with local legislators or state, whatever level we decide you want to go forward on this. And the part there that's so important is that however the proclamation is worded, it needs to be really, we need to be careful that there's nothing that gives them the power to usurp our power as grassroots activists. I think it's great if Shasta or Santa Cruz County or any jurisdiction will take this on and stand behind it in some kind of a meaningful proclamation. That will be helpful, because as we gather those together, it matters. That really does help. It helped a lot in stopping, it's the light brown apple moth. And when we got a lot of the different city councils.
27.
Yeah, 27 different city governments that we got to take that on. So once you get one, it's easier to get another, and that really is helpful. But it's not essential. If we don't get it, we're not going to give up. And so we need to be sure to word it in that way, that we don't hand this over to some kind of a vote where, you know, who can put in a few $1 million into disinformation in the county, get the vote to go the wrong way, and suddenly we've completely lost. So the governance sector needs to be educated about how to do this in relation to all of the other sectors. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm a big believer in is personal accountability. I think that as jurisdictions fail to come through to us, we need to move toward personal accountability and go toward the individuals who are making those decisions and hold them accountable for decisions that they are making that are truly harmful to our individual health and well-being. And that when we do that, we're going to watch a lot of change happen. So I'm not stuck on hoping that the jurisdictions come through. I do, and I think we should work toward that, but I wouldn't stop there. I'm definitely going toward personal accountability. I think that's the way this thing is ultimately going to be solved. In justice, there's looking into the lawsuits that we filed for the light brown apple moth. Those are all templates. You know, and these things, one of the things at thrivemovement.com, we have a solutions hub. And the Solutions Hub, the idea behind it is that we need to learn from each other. So Thrive, it's now, you know, we can document 25 million people have seen it. That's if one person watched each DVD. And it's in 27 different languages. And Foster and I are probably a lot more optimistic than most people on the planet, because we hear from people all over the world every single day who are awake and engaged in doing solutions. And I'll tell you, it's a distorted mirror out there that is reflected in the mainstream media that makes you feel like you're crazy and alone. You're not crazy and you're not alone. There are more people who are awake and disengaged from that mainstream media that we're led to believe is the majority. It's not. And they're here, and we can hook up with them, and we can share our learning, and we can learn from them. So one of the reasons to have this video tonight is to upload it onto the Solutions Hub and say, hey, any other community around the world that wants to start organizing and taking this on, here's our meeting. These are our materials. We upload them. They take them. We do a lawsuit. Someone else does a lawsuit. We take that template and bring it to the attorneys that we get on this team, because we're going to need to get attorneys. We're going to need to get all kinds of people joining in here. And then we share those best practices. We share what doesn't work, and we get to catapult each other ahead. And that's the idea, is that we host this Solutions Hub as a way to share best practices and don't have to each keep reinventing the wheel. So that's what we're going to be doing with what's happening locally and what's happening from Shasta. You know, like Dane, he created that for Shasta, but we got to use it here. He's made that available on the Solutions Hub now through this. That can go to any community anywhere. And the same way with the data. That's what's happened a lot with the GMO movement. It's going like fire because people are sharing the data now, so we don't have to recreate it in every community. So one of the sectors is relations, and one of the things that we found is that because we're all human beings doing this, we tend to run into problems with each other. And even though we're all here wanting to solve this problem, it's just amazing what kind of breakdowns there can be. And so by identifying here already who are some skilled people in conflict resolution and identify them and know that we're going to run into that. There are going to be people who feel really strongly about one thing and others who feel really strongly about another, and even though we have all this in common, it won't be enough to keep those problems from arising. So identifying the people on the relations team who we're going to then be able to call upon, we just know that. That's just part of a long haul of working together. With the light brown apple moth, I know we had some people who, they were so smart and they were so committed and they were so difficult that we thought, you know, maybe you would want to do all that research and then just feed it back to us, but not actually come to all the meetings. And it turned out that is what they wanted. Actually, that is what they wanted to do. They love to do the research, they cared about it, but they're not people. You know, whatever that's called. So anyway, I think we just need to be realistic about the fact that we're going to run into stuff and that we identify the people who can help us, and that when we leave here tonight, one of the things we're going to each have to do is talk to some other people to help get them engaged. And so what we're going to be doing is, Bruce and Cynthia set it up that at the tables, there's each sector is identified, so that you can go, okay, so what is it that, and in the arts, you know, maybe you are really good at creating how presentations look. Maybe you can help put together a flyer or a one-page thing, whatever it is. We need all of that, and then that gets uploaded onto the Solutions Hub so that another community goes, hey, we want to have a meeting. Here's a template that already looks fantastic. They put together all the photos are there, nice writing, you just fill in the time and place for your community. The idea is that we're here to join together around the world and do this thing over a good long time that it's going to take us to take this on. So the way it works is that you're in a sector and you join together with the folks and you come up and we're going to gather around and take about 30 seconds where you say your name and your particular interest, why you're in that sector, and your skill or passion. Like, just quickly, here's the thing that I'm pretty good at or that I'm interested in, I've done before, and why I want to be in this sector. And then you get each other's contact information. And the way we did it with the light brown apple moth is that we had, there was a kind of an urgency then. Not that this isn't urgent, but it's going to take a long time. So I don't know how busy everybody is, but I'm guessing pretty busy. And so it might be that on 1 week you have a meeting with your sector group and you try to get other people to come and be a part of that. And then the next week you have a representative from that group come, and then you have a meeting of the representatives. So you have justice, governance, media, relations, education, environment, health, science, people who are making some headway in their work in their sectors come and they meet and they share the information. Here's what we're doing in our group. Here's what you're doing. Then that person goes back and the next time says, hey, here's all this stuff that's happening that we're not having to do. And it really helps, because whatever it is, no matter how hard you're working, it's not going to be enough, right, on your own. But you're actually getting fed in what are the things that are happening that other people are doing that make the difference here. So it's an organizing system that actually allows this to move forward over time in a way that you can stay informed about what's going on in the groups. And then once a month you have all of us, and this will just keep on growing, more and more show up where the bigger issues, and we can talk about what are the things that are coming up. There are going to be things that are, we don't know how to handle this particular piece. I think it's going to be very important to get super prepared before making a presentation to the Board of Supervisors or any city council. I think we need to get our ducks in a row. We need to have a whole lot of people who can really show up. We need to have the media team be, well-versed in, as I mentioned, I used to work for Newsweek, and there are things that you can do to be a skilled interviewee. And one of them is you get your points really clear that you're going to say no matter what the question is. And you figure out, you've got 3 answers, and they kind of vary according to your 3 main points that you want to make. And whatever the question is, you find a way, you practice answering your question as if it's answering the question. But you're really making sure to make the points that you want to make every single time. And that's just something that you practice, and you share the information, and you get clear that we're all in agreement that those are the points we want to be presenting. So this is just a real strategic, how are we going to take the passion and the rage and the sadness and the rest of what we're feeling about being in the situation that we're in, or even the confusion if it's a new awakening that we have a problem here. We have a real problem, and we have a lot of them. And this one happens to be, impacting us in a really direct way that needs our attention. So it's our contribution. We saw it work with the light brown apple moth. And I'm convinced that when you actually tune into who you are, you know yourself, you know your particular interest and passion in this, and you go with it, you're going to have a lot more energy for it than if you're trying to do the part of it that you think should be done, but it's not really your thing. You don't need to worry about it. And if there's a sector back there that doesn't have anybody at the table, it will.